What if this wasn't just another life? What if this was the last one? The final incarnation before crossing the ultimate veil, the last opportunity to remember, to transcend, to break free from the wheel. But if that's true, why does it still hurt so much to be here? There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from a wound, but from a memory, a silent longing, a deep discomfort with reality. Like something inside you knows, this world isn't home anymore. That's the first sign. And no, you're not alone. According to Helena Blavatsky, souls nearing their final incarnation begin to experience echoes that don't belong to this life. They're not memories in the usual sense. They feel more like a spiritual strangeness, a quiet awareness that you don't belong, not even among the spiritual ones. And it's not arrogance. It's the echo of a consciousness that's crossed through this place too many times. The Bardo Thödol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, says that souls who complete their journey no longer cling to forms, and that is painful. It hurts to watch others still asleep. It hurts not being able to explain what you feel. It hurts to realize that this world no longer resonates with you. If this speaks to something inside you, stay until the end. Because this isn't about pretty theories or recycled phrases. We're going to reveal 7 profound spiritual signs that suggest this may be your final reincarnation. And if by the end of this video, you recognize yourself in them, then it's no coincidence that you found your way here. Most souls repeat the cycle out of ignorance, not punishment. They get lost because they forget. But a few, and you may be one of them, have awakened just in time. And their final test isn't to meditate, or to channel messages, or to follow spiritual rules. The final test is this: to remember who you are without anyone telling you, and that remembering often begins with the wound, with the deep sense that you don't belong to any religion, any group, any system, with that voice inside whispering, "I've been through this before, I don't want to start over." Blavatsky described these souls as resistant to forgetting. Kardec called them mature spirits, ready to break free. And Tibetan teachings say that before exiting the cycle, your mind will project one last trial, to live in a world that no longer reflects you, without losing your peace. So, what happens inside a soul that's about to graduate from the game of matter? In this video, I'll walk you through each of the signs of breaks with care, reverence, and depth, because it's not enough to know. You must remember from the soul. Get ready. What you're about to hear may finally explain why your life has always felt a little too intense. Sometimes the exhaustion you feel isn't in your body. It's a kind of existential fatigue that words can't explain. A silent tiredness, like something inside you whispering, "I don't want to keep repeating this anymore." And that whisper, it's not about this life in particular, it's about all the ones before. So it's your soul beginning to remember it's walked this path many times, with different names, different faces, different mistakes. Some call it melancholy, some call it emptiness. But in truth, it's nostalgia for home. A deep longing for a place that doesn't exist in the physical world. An echo from another plane where you once felt lightness, unity, real silence. Most people spend their lives chasing purpose, achievement, recognition. But when the soul has matured, it stops looking outward. It simply longs to return to the all. And that's where the real test begins. You live in a world that constantly pushes you to do more, have more, prove more. But inside, there's a growing certainty. Nothing external can fill what you already are inside. Have you felt it? When a soul nears its final reincarnation, it stops trying to fit in. It stops needing to be right. It stops playing the game. All it wants is peace. Jiddu Krishnamurti said it clearly: it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And as the soul awakens, certain places start to feel unbearable. Small talk drains you. Empty celebrations no longer amuse you. Superficial spaces feel suffocating. It's as if your body is still present, but your essence is already looking elsewhere. Allan Kardec observed that many evolved spirits experience this disconnection from the material world, not because they hate life, but because they no longer identify with the illusion of form. And here's the beautiful paradox. These souls are in no rush, but they're not afraid either. They no longer see death as punishment or life as a goal. They've understood that each lifetime is just one more opportunity to remember. Have you found yourself unable to stay in certain jobs, relationships, or routines? Have you lost the desire for things you once thought were essential? That's not emptiness. That's clarity. You're not losing direction, you're shedding the illusion. And when that nostalgia for your true origin begins to take over, many people get confused. They feel broken, out of place. They think something must be wrong with them. But no, nothing is wrong. You're waking up. Because when the soul finally tires of sleeping, it begins to open its eyes, and the first thing it sees is that it was never lost, only forgotten. At the end of this video, I'll share a ritual with you that will help you reconnect with that ancient memory. But for now, just allow this truth to sink in. If something deep within you is screaming that you no longer belong to this life the way you once did, it's because you're coming home. There comes a moment on the soul's journey when everything starts to feel heavier. Not because something is wrong, but because you see more, you feel more, you perceive what others can't, and you can't unsee it. It's the moment when illusions stop holding you, when hollow words no longer satisfy, when superficiality weighs more than silence. Because once you've remembered certain truths, your soul no longer fits in the places it once called home. And it's not sadness you carry, it's that you're now dwelling in a more subtle realm, while living in a world that still vibrates in density. Blavatsky once said that an awakened spirit begins to feel heavy on earth, because its energy no longer fully belongs to this plane. It's like a bird that has learned to fly, but still drags invisible chains tied to its feet. Have you felt this? That the noise of the world actually hurts you, that you prefer solitude over the chaos of crowds. That time alone is the only time that truly restores you. If any of this resonates, you're not broken, you're awakening. And if you've made it this far, it's no accident. Leave a comment below. I've seen too much, and I'm still remembering. Your soul will know why. It's more than a phrase, it's a quiet recognition between awakened souls. And if this message is touching something deep inside you, don't forget to leave your energy here. A like, a subscription, a word in the comments. Not for the algorithm, but to anchor your conscious presence in this sacred space. And here comes one of the most silent tests for souls on their final round, vibrational loneliness. You can't tolerate shallow conversations anymore. You can't pretend you don't feel what you feel. You can't betray yourself just to fit in, and yes, that hurts, but it also purifies, because when you choose not to betray yourself, when you follow the path that resonates with your soul, even if no one else understands it, you begin to walk with truth as your companion. Krishnamurti once said, "Freedom is not in choosing between options, but in seeing the conditioning that made you believe you had to choose. And once you understand that, there's no going back." A mature soul doesn't shout, doesn't compete, doesn't try to convince. It simply vibrates. And that vibration opens portals. Portals of memory, of return, of silent understanding. Because the soul doesn't scream, it remembers. And when it remembers, it can no longer pretend it doesn't know. While most are still cycling through old lessons, caught in the karmic tide, there are souls that begin to remember. Not because they're special, but because they've learned to see without the eyes of the ego, to feel without the fears of the past, and to walk without needing to belong. They are the souls who, even in silence, have said yes to their last opportunity. But what does it truly mean to be in your final lifetime? And more importantly, why do so many souls on the verge of liberation still feel such deep pain while they're here? If this truly is your last life, why does it still hurt so much to be here? The answer isn't outside you. It's not even in your past. It's in your frequency. You see, the souls preparing to break the cycle of reincarnation aren't the most spiritual. They're not the ones who've read the most books or gathered the most positive karma. They're simply the ones who, after many lifetimes, no longer want to repeat. But don't mistake it for escapism. It's not about fleeing. It's about serving, about closing what was once opened, about honoring life, not avoiding it. And that's where the real struggle begins, because the soul that's close to liberation begins to feel everything more deeply. It's not emotional hypersensitivity, it's energetic perception without filters. What used to go unnoticed now cuts through you. What you used to tolerate now weighs heavy. Empty routines, manipulative ties, systemic distractions, all of it becomes painful. Not because you're weak, but because you've remembered. A soul nearing freedom often experiences a kind of spiritual mourning. It feels like something is leaving, and it is. What's leaving is the need to belong, the attachment to drama, the identification with the character you've been playing. And yes, that hurts, because the ego dies screaming, but the soul is reborn in silence. Have you found that you just can't wear certain masks anymore? That no matter how much you try to fit in, something inside you refuses? That what once excited you now feels hollow, and old wounds no longer define you? That's not apathy, that's transcendence. It means you're starting to see life from a different plane, like the character is still speaking, but you no longer respond, like the stage is still set, but you've stopped acting. And that mismatch between your new vibration and the old reality, that's what hurts the most. Sometimes it shows up as unexplained sadness, or a deep longing for something you can't quite name, or a feeling that you don't belong to anyone or anything anymore. That's because you don't belong here anymore. Your soul is saying goodbye to this plane, not in haste, but with reverence. It's closing old contracts, returning energy it once borrowed or had taken from it, cleansing the field like someone sweeping a temple before they leave. That's why everything feels more intense right now. The emotions, the synchronicities, the strange dreams, the spontaneous memories, the encounters with people who seem to carry coded messages. It's not coincidence, it's part of the process. And here's a hard truth: the closer you get to liberation, the greater the call to responsibility. You can't lie to yourself anymore. You can't hide behind inherited guilt. You can't keep ignoring the vibrational impact of your words, your choices, your actions. A mature soul doesn't seek comfort, it seeks coherence. And at this stage, coherence isn't just between what you think, say, and do. It's between who you are and what you came here to offer. Because if this is your last incarnation, you're not here just to heal. You're here to plant seeds. Seeds of memory, seeds of silence, seeds of frequency. Even if no one understands. Even if it feels like you're speaking a forgotten language. Even if you have to do it alone. So now I ask you, can you feel that this message is speaking directly to you? If something inside you recognized itself in these words, it's because your soul already knew. Before we continue, do a small act of presence. Tap like if this truth touched you. Write a simple "I'm remembering" in the comments so we know you're not walking this path alone. Because when one soul remembers, it helps others remember too. In the next section, we'll go even deeper. I'll reveal the hidden purpose behind the souls who never return, and the final test they must face before their ultimate liberation. They say that the soul who won't reincarnate again has already learned everything it needed to, but that's not entirely true, because there's a kind of learning that can't be found in books, not even in past lives. It's a wisdom that only reveals itself in the deepest silence of the present, the ability to remember without drama and love without attachment. Souls nearing the end of the cycle aren't better than others. They're not purer, not more enlightened. They've simply seen enough. They've walked in many bodies, they've loved, they've lost. They've been both the persecutor and the persecuted. Until one day, something inside whispered, "Enough." That enough is not resignation. It's awakening. And when that awakening happens, life is no longer lived through desire or fear, but through a quiet surrender to what is. Here's where the deepest paradox begins. When the soul no longer needs to return, that's exactly when a new mission is revealed. Not a mission imposed, not a burden to carry, but a frequency to sustain. These souls no longer come to learn in the usual way. They come to remember and to hold a vibration on earth, one that helps other souls awaken. No sermons, no preaching, no rescuing, just presence. And that's why these souls often feel out of place, misunderstood, too sensitive, too heavy in body, and too light in spirit. Sometimes they think they're depressed, broken, but they're not. They're simply going through the final test, to live in a world that no longer reflects them, without losing their center. The soul that won't return is tested in the deepest layers of identity. It is offered the option to flee, to shut down, to harden the heart. But if it can stay open, if it can continue loving even in the middle of chaos, then it's ready. Ready for what? Not to escape the body, not to abandon the world, but to anchor heaven on earth. Because that is the true hidden purpose of the souls who never return. To embody the eternal within the temporary. To be conscious witnesses of a crumbling world, without crumbling with it. And here's a truth that may sting. Many of these souls, I don't want to be here. They feel alien, tired, disconnected, and that's understandable. But if they're still here, it's because their presence holds an invisible geometry, a silent grid that sustains coherence within the collective forgetfulness. Every act of compassion they offer, every time they choose silence over judgment, every time they transform a dark thought into gratitude, they're fulfilling their mission. They don't need to convince anyone. They don't need to be accepted. They only need to remember who they are, even when everything around them feels like noise. If you've made it this far, if something inside you has resonated with each word, it's possible that your soul is close to completing its cycle. I don't say this as a promise, not as a spiritual title, but as a possibility. Because if you're still listening, it's because there's a call your soul can no longer ignore. Comment below. I feel like this is my last time, not from certainty, but from deep intuition. Maybe you've known it all along, but needed to hear it in human words. And if this message brought you peace, clarity, or just a small spark of inner recognition, subscribe, activate the bell, and walk this path with us. This isn't a channel about theories. It's a space for remembering truths that were always within you. In the final section, I'll reveal how the silent karma of these souls operates, what happens right before they exit the game of matter, and the real risk that could still pull them back into the cycle. Because yes, even souls ready to leave can still be caught by one last illusion. They say that when a soul is ready to leave, the universe opens the gates, but no one talks about the silent guardian that can close them at the last moment. And that guardian, it's not external. It's not a demon, it's not punishment. It's the one thing you're still not willing to let go of, the last illusion. There is a moment, invisible, fleeting, almost imperceptible, when the soul that has completed its cycle faces its most subtle attachment, the desire to return out of love. Love for those still here, for those still asleep, for those who suffer in their unconsciousness. And that kind of love, so noble, so deeply human, can quietly become a new chain. It's not attachment to possessions or to ego, it's attachment to bonds, to people the soul believes it still needs to protect. And so, many souls who are ready to cross over choose, not out of karma but out of love, to return one more time. A mother who comes back for her child, a teacher who reincarnates to hold space for their group, a former guardian who still feels she can't let go, and in doing so, the cycle begins again. A new story, a new body, but the same silent mission. Only this time, with more fatigue. That is the most dangerous trap for souls who are ready, confusing compassion with obligation. True love liberates. It doesn't bind. And that's why the final portal only opens when the spirit learns to love without saving, to care without carrying, to trust without controlling. It is that state of total surrender that finally breaks the cycle. And in that moment, the soul neither rises nor falls. It simply dissolves into the all. It doesn't leave. It becomes one, and it leaves a trace, a vibration, an echo through time. Those around them feel it. They say, something passed through here, a quiet nostalgia for something they can't quite name. It's a kind of invisible presence that transformed everything, and just by being, because souls who leave never to return, leave light behind, not as a signature, but as seeds. And those seeds, they bloom in other souls who are still walking. If you feel like your path is no longer about seeking, but about remembering, guiding, and silently inspiring, you might already be in that stage. But remember this, being ready doesn't mean the cycle is over. It means that now, every step, every choice, every thought is part of the final test. And how will you know if you'll make it? You won't, but you'll feel it. You'll feel like there's nothing left to conquer. And paradoxically, that's when everything starts to flow, effortlessly, peacefully, with no return. If this video touched something deep inside you, write in the comments, I'm ready to release the cycle, or simply stay silent. The universe hears what is not said. And if this message embraced you from within, leave a like, activate the bell, and stay with us. This channel is more than just videos. It's a field of memory, a spiritual compass for souls who already knew, but were just waiting for a mirror. Thank you for staying until the end. From this moment forward, nothing will ever be the same, And if this is truly your last life, may it be your most conscious one. Your journey doesn't end here. Click on one of the videos on the end screen and let your soul remember what it still came to integrate.